What's up guys, welcome back. I'm here with my 1994 Integra GSR. I am about to begin the Skunk2 intake manifold installation. As you can tell, I've been doing a lot of work on this car lately. I actually just recently kind of rebuilt the head. I have dual valve springs, titanium retainers, lost motion assemblies. I installed Skunk2 stage 1 tuner cams with Toda racing adjustable cam gears. So all that's underneath the valve cover there, a brand new distributor, and just I'm getting a Skunk2 alpha header and all those goodies. Like, there is lots of good stuff going into this build. And the next thing is this Skunk2 intake manifold. So I'm just going to go over real quick to start out here all what I got. Obviously, here is the Skunk2 intake manifold. This one is specifically for the B18C1. I also have a Skunk2 thermal gasket and also the Skunk2 throttle body. I think this one is 68 millimeters if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, brand new throttle body here. It does come with a gasket and the hardware to mount the throttle body and a TPS sensor. So I have that to mount the Skunk2 intake manifold, and plus the thermal gasket. The OEM mounting hardware will not work. By the way, this is, I was just showing you guys, here is the GSR intake manifold that I took off. So I will reuse a couple or a few of these and miscellaneous things off of this. But what I was going to say with this kit is I bought a mounting hardware. This is Blocks Racing. It includes the studs, some washers, and also the nuts, because with the added, thermal gasket, this is a lot thicker than the OEM one. You need to use extended studs because the OEM ones will not work. So obviously I'm going to install these first, but also want to show you guys, in order for this to work on at least the GSR that I know of, is you have to have a Type R throttle cable. So there is the part number right there. This is an Integra OEM Integra Type R throttle cable. I think you somehow can get it to work, but it won't work, as great as OEM. So I bought this along with this part right here. There's the part number. This is actually a throttle cable bracket, OEM one for an Integra Type R. So those are the pieces I need to get this all completed. I also have my IAC over here, a brand new Blocks TPS, and just kind of some miscellaneous stuff. Here's my fuel pressure regulator and all of that. So before I put in the intake manifold, I also refreshed my PCV box, or the OEM catch can right here. This is a new hose, brand new PCV valve. I have a new O-ring on it. I replaced a majority of these coolant hoses back here. So while you have this off, you definitely want to do all the maintenance that is back here. So without further ado, I'll let you guys see the head. There it is right there. You can see I've already taken out the OEM studs. So now I just need to put in that new stud kit so we can actually get this thing mounted. All right guys, so a special thing about these Blocks stud kit is that the very end here, the end right here, that is a Allen head or a hex head. So I can actually put my Allen key in here, and I don't have to do the two nut method where you put one nut on and then one all the way to the end of that nut, and then you tighten them both together, and then you use a wrench to thread in the stud. This way I don't have to do any of that. This is much easier, saves a little bit of time, and yeah, it's much more efficient. All right guys, before I continue putting in the studs, I have a brand new OEM knock sensor for my car. I'm replacing a majority of these sensors, so I decided to go ahead and get this one, even though you guys aren't going to believe this, but this sensor from Honda is $185. Yes, $185 from Honda. So this is, anyways, this is a 27 millimeter, and it is torqued down to 23 foot-pounds. So I got my deep socket. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that thing down. 23 foot-pounds. Simple as that. Brand new OEM knock sensor. Now it's time to continue on putting in these blocks intake manifold studs. Alright guys, so I have 2 nuts on these. I'm going to reuse these studs which hold the fuel rail. So I just threaded on 2 nuts against each other, and now I am just using my wrench to take them off. Okay, now that I finally have the stud out, you can see the 2 nuts tightened together right there. Now I'm just going to install the 3 studs into the new intake manifold. And I'll tighten it up there, and we'll be good to go on those. Alright, I got the studs all secure. These are the nuts I used, by the way. There is the part number. These are a little bit smaller than the nuts that hold the intake manifold to the actual head. So just a heads up, if you want to use the 2 nut method, there they are. By the way, I measured the OEM GSR intake manifold versus the Skunk2 intake manifold, and the GSR one weighed 16 pounds and the Skunk2 one weighed 8.8 pounds. So this is a savings of 7.2 pounds. So just some minor weight reduction, which it's always good to lose some weight in the car. Alright guys, it is time to put on the throttle body. As I said, Skunk2 does supply the gasket. Oh, this is a 66mm throttle body, by the way. I didn't remember if this was a 68 or a 66, but it's a 66. Just a bolt-on build, mild build. And as I said before, here is the hardware. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this up, and I will find out what the torque spec is on. Okay, let's go ahead and mount this throttle body. Let's see here, it goes like that. Go ahead and put the bolt through there and put it through the gasket. Just have that ready to go. Okay, here we go. Alright, those 4 bolts get torqued down to 14 foot-pounds. That's looking good. Alright, let's see what's next. Next, let's take the IAT sensor, intake air temperature sensor. Make sure that that's nice and clean, and you have the O-ring on it. Just gonna slip that on there. Tighten this down. Next, we are going to do the map sensor. Make sure you take it off of your old throttle body. Okay, so I have my old throttle body here, and the map sensor is right on top, right there. Mine's an OEM Denso, so we're going to unscrew this and screw it to the top of the new throttle body. All right, nice and snug. Very good. Map sensor is installed. IAT is installed. I could install a few other things on here. Well, I guess I could see how the bracket and maybe the IAC fits on there. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put the Type R throttle bracket on there just to, tighten it down. So there's the part number again for the bracket. So let's go ahead and open this one up. All right, awesome. Nice, shiny, and new. You can see it says P73 on there. And then I also have the hardware that holds it down. This is the part number for the bolt that holds it down. So I got nice, fresh, new hardware. All right, so we'll go ahead and take this guy out, and let's see, let's put this guy on there. Should go on just like that. I am missing a bolt right here. I thought that I ordered 2 of these, but I may have just ordered 1. So I'll go ahead and order that, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and continue on with the installation. Alright guys, let's talk coolant hoses for a little bit. So I have my IACV here, and it has a couple of coolant hoses on it. This hose right here actually goes to these 2 nipples, well, one of the nipples on the throttle body. That right there, and then that one goes back to the neck. The coolant neck right here goes to this whole hose right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a hose from the coolant neck here and then feed it all the way back, and it will feed into this port right here. And then this guy right here, this hose, well, this is going to be bolted to the back of the intake manifold, and then this hose will go to, let me show you, looking at the back of the head here, this guy right here, so it will plug into here. I hope that that makes sense, and it took me a little while to figure out how that's going to work, but that seems like that will do the job, and I will show you guys whenever I have that finished product. So this is where the IACV sits. Make sure your O-ring is on there. If your O-ring is looking old or brittle, you definitely want to change it. I changed mine out. Well, actually, this is a new OEM IACV, I believe it's called. I bought this new a couple of years ago. So these 2 bolts, by the way, get torqued down to 16 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and, there's 1 and 2. Nice. S2000. Alright guys, so all the things that I want at this point are on the intake manifold. I am going to redo the hoses here in just a moment, but first I actually want to mount this thing. So I am going to have to order some hardware as well, but that's okay, we'll get to that later. For now, I'm going to put on this Skunk2 thermal gasket. Now this thermal gasket is a little bit thicker, actually it's a lot thicker than OEM, so it kind of creates a barrier between the intake manifold and the head, therefore keeping the intake manifold just a little bit cooler, which may result in, you know, like 1 to 3% horsepower increase, they say. So, plus it's reusable, so it's a good gasket. Let's go ahead and open this up and put it on the head. There it is. Thermal gasket is installed. Nice. Alright guys, this intake manifold is looking really nice and clean in here. So nice. Alright, so next, I really want to run the coolant hoses so I know where those are going, and also to see if I have enough coolant hose. The coolant hose size, by the way, for these littler ports is 5/16. I find that that works. So I have some Vibrant 5/16 that works for both oil and coolant. It's high temperature hoses. So I'm going to go ahead and actually put on the hardware for the intake manifold. So that is sitting right here. They gave me, you know, these, I don't know if these are like nylon or plastic or whatever washers. I don't know why they didn't give me metal washers for this, but you know, and those kind of look like OEM nuts. But anyways, this is the hardware they gave me. So I think I'm going to go ahead and tighten that intake manifold to the head because I need to see the length of hoses I need. You got your washer and your nut. Well guys, I got it mounted and man does it look good. All these nuts get torqued to 17 foot-pounds, by the way. You want to start in the inner ones and then work your way out. These ones underneath are pretty difficult to get to, but if you work at it, you'll get it. Just be patient. Next, while I'm waiting on the coolant hoses and stuff to be delivered, I think I'm going to go ahead and mount the fuel rail. Don't forget about these guys. These are the little washers that you should have taken off your old intake manifold. They go right in the hole right there where the injectors go. So I have each of those in their place, and then you can take your fuel rail. The fuel rail, by the way, I didn't even disconnect from the fuel filter. I just have the injectors sitting here in the fuel rail just like that, and it connected to the fuel filter. So I'm just going to swing this over, and then this just kind of slides over. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so you want these holes on the fuel rail to go over the studs that you put on this intake manifold. So just like that, and at the same time you want to be lining up your injectors to go into those holes. So just make sure that everything goes in nice and even. Just take it slow. You can see that I have two new hoses on the IACV here. One is connected to the side here, and it runs all the way underneath the distributor to this coolant filler neck right there. So that hose goes there. And then the other one is underneath the IACV. Let's see. So there's the throttle body. This one. That one right there. So there it is right there. Connects there and goes to that coolant passage right here. Now, I will say that I used all new hose. I just bought 3 feet of hose, and that was plenty. I also still need to connect this one right here. This is off of the filler neck near the passenger side of the intake manifold. And you can see the 2 ports. Here is the larger one right here, and then the smaller one is right below it. And then here is another coolant filler neck. You can see I already have a hose right here. This one connects to the larger inlet, and then this smaller one, I'm going to run a small hose connecting to this one right here. So this one will be just a short hose, so coolant can enter in right there. By the way, the hose that I used, I just went to O'Reilly's and I got a 5/16. That is the size that I used. In fact, here is some right here. It is a Gates 5/16. There you can see it says it right there. It does have a larger diameter on the outside. It is a little bit thicker than the OEM one, and that causes some of the clamps to be extremely tight. So I ordered some larger clamps. They have a 14mm opening, and I will be using the stock style spring clamps. So they will look like these, but they will be just a little bit larger to accommodate the thicker diameter hose end of this Gates. So like I said, I'm going to cut a small amount to go from here to there, and then I'll hook up this hose right here to the intake manifold, and that should be it for my water or coolant connections. Alright guys, so I have a new O-ring on this PCV valve, kind of like the OEM catch can, along with a new hose right there that goes from the catch can to the head, and then I have a brand new OEM Honda PCV valve. So now what I need to do is I need to make a hose, or cut a hose, that connects to the PCV valve, and then it will go up, and then I'll have it run through one of these runners, probably this one right here, and then plug into the intake manifold right here. Again, I am waiting on my 14mm spring clamps to finish that off, but I can go ahead and cut the hose to length. So let me show you what I'm working with here. So I have 2 hoses here. Now you might want to keep this in mind that some hoses are for oil or fuel only, and others are for coolant only. For example, this one is for heater coolant. Well, they call it a heater hose, and it is specifically for coolant. Whereas this one is actually a Vibrant Performance one. This one is a little bit more pricey, but they say that this one can hold both oil and coolant, but that is rare. This is the only hose that I've seen that can hold both. Usually you just have one that holds coolant and then one that can hold you know, certain oils, so, or fuel. So this one is both, and this one is, you know, the higher quality, and I don't really want to use a coolant hose for my PCV valve system, so that leaves me with using this Vibrant Performance one. It is thicker diameter on the outer than the OEM hose, just like this one is, like I said, so you will need to use a larger clamp on this one. This one I ordered a couple of 14mm spring clamps. What I need to do is I need to put this hose on the PCV valve system and then run it through one of these runners and then just get an estimate of where it should go and cut it to length.